The Toronto Star has edited a story to make a prominent gun control activist seem just a little less crazy and a little less bigoted towards lawful Canadian gun owners. These are just the kinds of favors that $115,000 per week in subsidies can buy the Liberal government. I stumbled across fake news unfolding right before my very eyes on Tracey Wilson's Twitter feed. Now, Tracey Wilson is a pro-gun rights lobbyist for the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. Tracey's great. She's busy fighting to keep the Liberals' grubby hands off your lawfully owned property when you don't have the time to do it. Wilson was calling out the Toronto Star for, I suppose, what could be interpreted as a highly defamatory article written about the recent spate of gun violence in Toronto over the past long weekend. 14 separate shootings with 17 people injured over the course of a 72-hour period. Sounds a lot like Chicago of the North, doesn't it? Anyway, just like Chicago, the solutions from the progressive left to address the gun violence in Toronto, well, they just want to ban guns from the city, which, of course, will turn out exactly the same way as it is in Chicago. The lawful people will be punished, while the people who don't and will never follow the rules continue to run amok, maybe to an even greater extent. Getting back to Wilson, though. Wilson pointed out something that gun control lobbyist Wendy Cukier had said about legal gun owners in that Toronto Star story. And she pointed out that the Toronto Star had subsequently edited their story to make what Cukier had actually said about lawful Canadian gun owners seem a little less extremist. Now, once we get through what the Toronto Star did to slant the news in favor of a gun control lobbyist, we can go on to debunk what this gun control lobbyist actually said. Let me show you what happened using the Wayback Machine. Here's the very first version of the Toronto Star story that they published. Asked for her thoughts on how Toronto could be experiencing a surge in the number of shootings but a decline in gun-related deaths, Cukier, the Coalition for Gun Control president, said that legal gun owners tend to be more effective in killing people because they spend time at target practice or hunting. One of the terrible ironies is that when you see the proliferation of guns often associated with gang violence, you have lots of shootings but fewer people are killed, perhaps because they don't spend hours and hours at the shooting range, she said. We are lucky that the people doing the shooting were not better shooters, but that should not make us complacent in terms of the problem of the proliferation of firearms, Cukier said in an interview Tuesday. Oh, okay. I suppose we should be more like the gangsters and just walk around with our guns in the waistband of our pants until we get the urge to shoot up a playground. Got it, Wendy. Cukier's solution for gun violence is less training. Seems legit, lady. Thank God the gangsters don't follow the law, am I right? And to make Cukier seem a little less wrong and a little less crazy, if that's possible, the latest version of the Star's story removes the pro-gangster, anti-lawful comments of Cukier, who demonize hunters and people who use their guns at the range instead of on the streets to kill people. This part didn't make the latest rewrite of the Star's story. As for her thoughts on how Toronto could be experiencing a surge in the number of shootings, but a decline in gun-related deaths, Cukier, the Coalition for Gun Control president, said that legal gun owners tend to be more effective in killing people because they spend time at target practice or hunting. Cukier is out there pushing for more and more gun control, which the Liberals are just itching to do, even though they've just passed their gun control legislation, Bill C-71. The Liberals, like they always do, just want more and more control of your life, and they want to demonize you, and they'll never be satisfied. In fact, public safety fossil Ralph Goodale has just announced that if the Liberals are re-elected, they will bring in even more gun control legislation. They're campaigning on it. So the Liberals need to save Cukier's reputation and make her seem, well, less kooky and prejudiced against those of us who use our firearms in the ways prescribed by Canadian laws. Cukier has to be the non-governmental face of the Liberal plans. and she has to be unscathed. You see, friends, those are the sorts of favors the Liberals can garner for their pro-gun control lobbyist friends when they're dishing out $115,000 per week of your money in the form of subsidies to the failing catastrophe of the Toronto Star. Hello? Toronto Star? Cut that line from the story. Yes, Ms. Telford, anything for our paymasters. Can we have some more, please? But just because the Toronto Star cut that paragraph from their story, well, it really doesn't change just how wrong the defamatory remarks made by Cukier were. And I mean defamatory not in the legal sense, but in the malicious, lying about people you don't like because the truth isn't on your side this time sense. Let's put some facts to Cukier's feelings about those of us well-trained in the use of a firearm. If we follow Cukier's plot, with fewer people adept in the use of a firearm, society would be much more violent and dangerous, demographically speaking. There are very few people in Canada who have studied the data extensively in a scholarly way. But Gary Mauser, Professor Emeritus at the Beatty School of Business and Institute for Canadian Urban Research Studies at Simon Fraser University, has done that job. He studied the dangerousness of licensed firearms owners to police and found that there is no statistical difference between those of us trained and registered to own firearms versus the general public with regard to crimes and violence committed against Canadian police officers. Mauser has also testified before the Canadian Senate about the rates of crimes committed by licensed firearms owners in Canada versus the rates committed by the general public. He testified that the rate of firearms homicide by licensed individuals, analyzing data from 97 to 2010, was 0.6 per 100,000 compared to an average national homicide rate of 1.85 per 100,000. While licensed individuals do use their firearms to kill, they are 1/3 less likely to commit murder than an average Canadian. The rate for more recent time period, 2005 to 2016, remains about the same, if slightly higher, at 0.6 per 100,000 licensed owners. This rate remains much lower than the general homicide rate for the Canadian population at 1.69 per 100,000 population. So the answer to the question about how to combat urban gun crime, or rather just one of the answers, outside of rebuilding the family unit, keeping fathers in their home, and breaking the cycle of generational poverty by creating the conditions to foster a booming economy, is actually more gun training, not less. But getting back to the beginning of this video, the Toronto Star is dishonest and liberal. Yes, we all know this. But I am glad if just for a fleeting moment, the Star published the truth about the gun grabbers in their very own words. We need to know just how dumb and maybe even dangerous their ideas are, how their ideas will result in more deaths, and how they look at one of the safest demographics in all of Canada as trained killing machines while giving those who don't follow the laws a free pass, and actually even admitting to being grateful that gangsters don't follow the laws like we do. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Did you know that all of our premium content is available as a free downloadable podcast? You can find that at therebel.media/listen or subscribe in any of your favorite podcast catchers.